Chapter 12 is a chapter on a micronutrient function, and these are nutrients that are involved in energy metabolism. So for us to take glucose and turn it into energy, there are cofactors and coenzymes that are necessary. So this chapter focuses on those as well as what happens if we have too little or too much of those micronutrients. So we're going to describe the vitamins and minerals that are needed for breakdown of glucose, the functions of particular ones like thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, pantothenic acid, B6. So the first one here then is just looking at the role. So B vitamins are considered coenzymes. Sometimes they separate minerals and call them cofactors. But whenever you have an enzyme, it's helping a chemical move from point A to point B, and that's what an enzyme does, and a coenzyme that even speeds that up more quickly. The deficiencies of B vitamins can affect our nervous system. That's one of the main things you'll see. Skin, brain, you can be foggy brain, you're not able to think clearly, and it can affect a lot of our tissues. Most of the B vitamins are absorbed, they're water soluble. There's a few that are stored, B6 and B12 can be stored in the liver to some extent. A typical diet gets plenty of B vitamins. However, people that are eating gluten-free diets may not get enough B vitamins because wheat is fortified with B vitamins, and if they're not eating wheat, it could be a deficiency. Alcoholics also are more likely to be deficient because of alcohol and B vitamin conflict. And a lot of the foods that we buy that are refined, unless they've added the B vitamins back, are going to be deficient in B vitamins as well. B vitamins are mainly in grains. They're in the germ and the bran of each wheat kernel. If these are removed and you have white flour, then the U.S. has since 1930 required that we enrich. That means putting back the vitamins that have been removed. So thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, and folic acid had to be added back because we finally figured out in the late 20s that pellagra was a deficiency disease that was from lack of niacin. And there were some other deficiency diseases as well, which we'll look at. So we can't live without B vitamins. Here is another reason why B vitamins are important. This might look complicated, but just basically notice that protein, carbs, and lipids all can be turned into energy. How is that done? By all these enzymes and coenzymes. What are these made of? Thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, B6, folate. All these B vitamins are coenzymes that allow protein or carb or fat to be transferred and made into ATP for energy. So that's why without these, we basically would not survive. What does an enzyme do? This is called, most enzymes are proteins, so they have a particular shape. And once the coenzyme fits inside the enzyme, then that enzyme can be activated. It has the right shape. It's just a puzzle piece, basically. So that the substrate, in this case, it might be a polysaccharide, can fit into that coenzyme-enzyme combination, and then that can split apart some of the bonds to break it down. So this is the action of an enzyme and a coenzyme. And then you can look at the video that's going to be in the slides that just show how glucose can break down to ATP. So this is where all those enzymes are in action, are activated. So it's called glycolysis. So think about glycogen lysis. It's breaking, or glycogen or glucose lysis. It's breaking glucose down to even smaller bits and pieces until it becomes ATP, which is the main energy source of our bodies. So you'll see from that video, which I think is in this, you'll see from this, you can watch this in your free time. You'll see that what happens is in the cytoplasm of the cell, this is all going on in the cell, just a little bit of NADH, which is niacin in a particular enzyme, can break down glucose into what's called pyruvic acid. And when it does that, it produces some ATP. But that is only 2 ATP. However, when that moves now, the pyruvic acid moves into the mitochondria, which is that one organelle in your cell, it now, with more interactions and more electron transport, can, through the system, produce another 34 ATP total. So that in all gives you about 36 ATP, which is one glucose molecule can give you 36 ATP. And if you're using a lot more than one glucose, so that's the energy that we need to survive. So that's the whole reason that whole B vitamins are essential. When you look at that video, you'll see. And then you can see too that by eating whole grains, we'll get B vitamins. If we just ate brown rice instead of white rice, so brown rice shows there's much more magnesium, B6, much more B6 than the white rice. So we're trying to encourage whole grains to get those naturally. Or you can take a supplement. You can see the supplement has B1, B2, B3, B6, B12, biotin, folic acid, which is B9. So you can take a supplement, but it's always best to get it from a food because there are other things that are in foods that we may not even recognize yet, like phytochemicals that are important. So here we have the deficiency diseases. So if you don't get enough, we'll just talk about these three. These are the three for B vitamins and iron that are lacking. So scurvy, we might have mentioned, is a vitamin C deficiency. Rickets is a vitamin D deficiency in children. In adults, it's called osteomalacia, but in children, we call it rickets when your bones don't properly form. They stay soft and they form bowed legs and strange wrists convolutions. So the reason milk is fortified is to get vitamin D so you don't have rickets. But in this case, we're talking about the B vitamins. So beriberi is the disease that you would get if you don't get enough B1, which is thiamine. Pellagra is the disease you'd get if you don't have enough B3, which is niacin. And then there's the rickets, and that's a fat-soluble vitamin. So there's a review check. So thiamine then, just looking at B1, without this was the first discovered B vitamin. It's important again for the ATP pathway. You might see TPP, that's one of the coenzymes that's useful for. Getting enough, we need just a little bit, 1 milligram a day. It's a very tiny amount, or the daily value is 1.5 milligrams a day. So here you can see that this particular supplement has 1.5 milligrams, 100%. That's your suggested amount. The foods that you can get thiamine naturally are pork products, whole grains, cereals because they're fortified, refined grains because they've been enriched, but naturally it's also in milk, green beans, orange juice, peanuts, dried beans, so it's in a lot of food sources. Deficiency causes beriberi, which gives these kind of symptoms like emancipation, not being able to think clearly. It can lead to confusion, coma, and death. So there's two different kinds, a wet and a dry beriberi. We really don't see these much anymore, but here you can cause heart failure. Here you can see tender muscles. You can call it foot drop because you can't even hold, your muscles won't allow your foot to be held up properly. Reflexes won't work anymore. So it causes paralysis and anemia. So without B1, we're in pretty poor shape. B2, we didn't mention yet, but riboflavin. I think of riboflavin mainly as being found in milk products. It's another coenzyme. It's for fatty acid breakdown. And it's also an antioxidant, which is helpful for our body. So we need dairy products because the antioxidants actually prevent the breakdown of the cell membrane. They keep mitochondria healthy, all the cell organelles healthy. Okay, sorry about that. So we just want to finish up. The riboflavin then is, if you don't have enough of it, it actually causes your tongue to swell. It causes little sores on the side of your mouth, cracking in the corners of your mouth. It can cause confusion if your brain, with your brain disorders, sensitivity to sun, joint problems. So it's something that we need to get enough of, and it's very small, like 1.7. So back to this supplement, it has 1.7 milligrams. That's 100% of your daily need. So riboflavin, it actually means yellow. It causes your urine to become a bright yellow color if you take a supplement of it. It's again something alcoholics might be deficient in. You can get plenty of it in dairy foods and also in grains because they're enriched, but meat, eggs, and dairy might be your most common if you're a vegetarian, and then broccoli, asparagus, and greens. So then the next one, niacin. Niacin is the B3, and this is another coenzyme for fatty acid production. And just looking at the deficiency of this, if you don't have enough, it causes pellagra. This causes like a rash or a really dry skin, and it's very painful. And not only that, that's the first sign of niacin deficiency. The second sign is diarrhea, dementia, and death. So they call it the 4Ds. It's a very deleterious disease or deficiency. Again, now this time we need about 14 or up to 20 milligrams a day according to DV. So here's 20 milligrams. It's 100% of your what you need for the day. The other food you can get it from are poultry, a lot of meat sources, and cereals because they're enriched, peanuts and asparagus. There's a video you can watch that tells a little story about a niacin deficiency, which will help you understand it. Then there's B6, there's B5, pantothenic acid is another coenzyme. It tells you where it is. We're not really looking at the deficiency of that. B6 is a pyridoxine that can cause anemia if you have too little of that. So it helps break glycogen down to glucose. It's a coenzyme. It helps as a neurotransmitter, different protein reactions. It makes hemoglobin, white blood cells. All these interactions are B6. If we have a deficiency, it can cause, again, depression, vomiting, skin disorders, nerve problems, very serious, and also can cause a breakdown of the hemoglobin, so you become anemic. You can get enough B6 in these foods right here, breakfast foods, potatoes, spinach, so it's an odd variety of things. So those are the main B vitamins that we talked about. There's a couple other ones mentioned in here, and then we also will talk about just a few minerals. So this is iodide. So there's 3 that I mentioned, CMIM. I just said chromium, manganese, iodine, molybdenum. Those are micronutrients that are needed, most of them except for iodine, that we need in small amounts for energy production. So you can look through iodine. With too little iodide, we can have a goiter, which also can have cretinism, which would cause brain defects in children. It's more serious than just a goiter. We need to get iodine from iodized salt or from sea vegetables like seaweed. Those are very healthy. Too much iodine can also affect your thyroid hormone, so you don't want too little or too much. That's why we have RDAs. Chromium is another kind of micronutrient that helps with insulin production and insulin movement, so that's like a coenzyme for the insulin. There's manganese, which is found in a lot of metals. So if you're dealing with a welder, for instance, often gets too much manganese, and it does destroy their nerves. It's destructive for your nerves. So that's dangerous. And then molybdenum is one other that's very rare to be deficient, so we don't really deal with that. But just to be aware that those 4 minerals are also essential for the movement of energy production. So that is what chapter 12 is about, mainly about these B vitamins and these few minerals and how they are coenzymes and cofactors so that we can break down glucose to ATP. So thank you very much.